Hey guys! So today we are going to be reading Just Friends by Pham. So if you've been in the book community for any amount of time, you've probably heard of it. But just in case you haven't, Pham is a popular booktuber, and Just Friends is her debut novel. It's a second chance romance. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't planning on reading this because I don't normally read romances, especially adult romances. And from what I've heard and from the blurb and all of that, it doesn't really sound like something I would enjoy. But considering the controversy this book has sparked, I really wanted to read it for myself and see what I think. Pham is one of my favorite booktubers, and I would really love to love this book, but I might not, and I want to be honest with you. So here is my honest review and my vlog of reading Just Friends. So before we get into this, I just wanted to provide a little bit of background information. Just Friends, I know, is a second chance romance. It's a childhood friends to lovers where they originally kind of got together and then they had a falling out, and then there's a dual timeline, and so it's before and then after when they later get together. And then it has a lot of undertone of grief from what I've heard, because she comes back to her childhood town to care for her great aunt who is in hospice care. And from what I've heard, it's very serious and has more of a romance as a subplot. There's a lot of other content, which I like because I do like realistic fiction. The other thing is, I know this has no spice, which I really enjoy, especially because this is an adult romance. I will be completely honest, I did start this book when I bought it in the store. I'm on page 13 right now. So far, I actually do not mind it. We haven't met the love interest yet, so I'm hoping I like the love interest. The only thing I'm noticing is this is her debut novel, and I wouldn't expect anybody's debut novel to be perfect. I think she's going to get a lot more criticism because she is so famous and popular, but I am really noticing that she is trying to draw from her favorite authors like Laurie McFarlane and Emily Henry and such. It sounds very forced, where a lot of words and phrases that, they do sound quite poetic and beautiful, but they don't really fit. I think the best way to say it is that, you're reading the book and then all of a sudden you become aware that you're reading. And I don't think that is a good thing. If I'm reading a book, I want to be, lost in the story. I'm hoping that I can get used to that and that won't keep happening, but that is so far what I am noticing. So I'll keep you updated. I'm going to start reading now. Again, I'm on page 13. So not very far in, we'll see. So, we just met the love interest, Declan. I was kind of laughing to myself because I can't help but reading it as Haley describing Ryan. And I know that that's not what it is, but you look at the people on the cover, it's clearly based off of it, and you can't blame her because you gotta base your writing off of what you know, and that's what she knows. But that kind of makes it a little weird to read for me. One line that kind of made me crack up, it said jagged cheekbone, and then later it said cheekbone again. Clearly someone's obsessed with cheekbones, but a jagged cheekbone, they're smooth. If it was jagged, it'd be kind of weird. Anyway, I'll keep you updated. So, a little update for you all. I am now on chapter 4, page 30, and we just had our first flashback chapter. And I don't know why, but in my mind I was thinking they were going to be 7 years old or whatever in the flashback chapters. I didn't realize that they were juniors in high school. So that was a little unexpected, and it was actually pretty nice to see the love interests interacting because, spoiler alert, they're not on great terms when they first meet in the present. But we also learned about the significance of the blue-footed booby on the cover. And also, I forgot to mention this earlier, but these cute little illustrations in the end and cover pages, and there's more blue-footed boobies right there. And I know it's a weird bird name, but I've heard of them before, and it mentions it in here also. That's their real name, and they have blue feet, and they're really cute. And we just learned why they're on the cover, and I think that's really cool that they have all of these little details. And I love it when covers and books have those little things that you learn about them as you go. There have been a few sentences that I've just felt were worded a little strangely, like almost like a typo, but not really. There was also one typo. There's one sentence where they have quotation marks at the beginning of the sentence, like quotation marks, and then another beginning quotation marks before the sentence, like the dialogue is ended, and then one ending quotation marks. So it was a bit of a typo, which is interesting considering it went through lots of editing, I'm assuming. But, you know, every book has them. It's not a big deal. But obviously I'm trying to be critical as I'm reading this because I am reviewing it. There have been several lines that I've caught myself kind of laughing at or kind of thinking, oh, that was a good metaphor. We'll see. Sorry about another update so soon, but I just wanted to say how I was feeling. We finally had a real conversation between Declan and Blair in the present timeline. I'm finally being able to not view them as Haley and Ryan, which I really appreciate because it was getting kind of weird there for a bit. I think this is going to be one of those books where the main character makes some bad decisions that is kind of hard for the reader because you're like, what are you doing? Because some of the things she says is kind of like, oh my gosh, you're making a fool out of yourself. But I prefer that over like a perfect main character. Obviously it needs plot. So I think I'm going to be done for tonight. I'll come back and update you tomorrow when I read more. Good morning, guys. It is the next day. I just got back from church and I've got my coffee here, so I am ready to get back into reading Just Friends. And I've actually been thinking about it a lot this morning and last night, and I think I'm pretty excited to get back into reading it. So hello, so I have another update. I read another chapter. I know I keep updating after every single chapter, but I had stuff to say. I have heard other people say this, but on the back of the book, it says that when an impulsive kiss took them from friends to something more, everything changed. But in other reviews I've heard, it wasn't actually the kiss that was the big turning point, which is a little bit misleading, but it sounds like there was some accident, and we don't know what the accident is, but somehow it miscommunication, something, they stopped talking after that. And from what I'm hearing and the way people are reacting, I kind of feel like it was something really, really stupid that the main characters were probably too proud or something. And it just feels to me like they're making a big deal out of something that didn't need to be. But I haven't got there, so I'm not going to make assumptions, but that's just the vibe I'm getting. One last thing I was going to say. I wanted to show you this bookmark I made a while ago. I just thought it matched the book really well. I don't know if you can see little birdies and then a tree. And the color palette, I feel like it just matches really well. Anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, I'm going to keep reading. I think I might take a break to draw because I am an artiste and I've been wanting to draw a bit, but I will come back to this. I am now on page 49. Hello again, I am back and ready to read. It's 4 p.m. right now, so I took a longer break than I expected, but I did end up drawing. I drew this. Well, I drew it before, but I colored it now. And I know this is a reading video, but I said you get to see my art too, so a little bonus content. But I'm ready to get back into Just Friends now. So hello, I am back again, and it is actually a few days later. I just finished reading Just Friends, and I apologize for not updating you sooner. I wasn't really filming. I think I just really wanted to get into a flow state with the reading and not stop after every chapter. I do think that helped. I have a lot of thoughts. The first thing was just like a slight little error I noticed. When Declan is building something in the coffee shop, I first noticed that Haley was using the word drill and nails, and I was like, that doesn't seem quite right, but I was going to dismiss it because maybe he was drilling a hole and then going to nail it in, even if that was probably not the best way to do it. But then it says he steadies a nail over the pencil markings, preparing to drill it in. First of all, if you were going to screw a screw in, you wouldn't even drill it. Drilling is for drilling a hole, you would screw it. Second of all, you don't drill or screw a nail, you hammer it in. So, I wouldn't expect Haley to know everything about woodworking, but considering the research it seems she did do, both on the town of Seabrook, blue-footed boobies, and football, all of those things, I was surprised that she did not do research on the fundamentals of woodworking. That was slightly amusing to read, just a little error. I have noticed a few other little things. There's been a couple times where she wrote nearly the same thing twice, but it wasn't exactly the same thing. It was just like she forgot she said it, and she was like, oh, I need to put this in, which wouldn't be a big deal, but it did go through editing, so it's just something that like you would think they would get. There were also a few other mistakes that I noticed. In specific, there was the exact words of a sentence repeated twice, which it was quite a long sentence, and it was a big thing that you would think, like, if Haley didn't catch it, the editors were. If you can see right there, it says, like everything I've ever worked towards was a lousy distraction for what I really wanted, period. Like everything I've ever worked towards was a lousy distraction for what I really wanted, period. The exact sentence twice. Typos happen, but it's good to note them. Hopefully somebody can fix that in later printings. And then thoughts on the actual plot. The first is when we finally get revealed what the accident was, that wasn't even the catalyst in the relationship, and then we finally get revealed what was the catalyst. It just seems like such a small misunderstanding to cause two people who have been best friends for 12 years not to talk for 4 years. And I know that sometimes little things can just like snowball out of control and you wouldn't like realize how long you can go without talking, because I have had a friend ghost me and it's been over a year now, and it's just like, oh, one day we stopped talking and now it's been a year. And so I do understand that can happen, but it was just such a ridiculous little thing and it felt a little anticlimactic. The second thing was the pacing felt a bit strange. At times it would feel extremely quick, where they went from we're friends to immediately, oh, we're more than friends, and you're like, oh, I thought the whole point of this was that they're like just friends, and then they had to like slow burn, which I guess it doesn't necessarily say that it's a slow burn, but the idea of friends to lovers made me expect that. But then there's times where it goes quite slowly, and you're like, you already decided that you're in a relationship, why are you not in a relationship? And that's the kind of thing where it's a little inconsistent, but it's not a big deal, just a little nitpicky thing. I even mentioned Ryan's name, not his name, but like, you don't marry somebody named Ryan and like, oh, I'm gonna name a random character Ryan. Like, no, you put that in purposely, which is not a big deal. It's complicated when the author and her husband are already very popular and famous people on the internet, because it makes it hard to separate characters that look like this from the author and her husband who look like this. And it's especially hard when they're not that much different in the story. Like, there's a lot of things taken from her life, which is not a big deal, but again, when they're famous, it becomes a little complicated. And it was only a few times that it kind of took me out of the story a little bit, and I kind of got the ick, and I'm like, it's Ryan and Haley, and then I can get back into Blair and Declan. But, just another little thing. If I was not doing this critically, and if this was not written by Haley Pham, and if it was not a very polarizing book on the internet, I would not have very many problems with it, I don't think. I think I wouldn't think about it that much. I think I would have finished the book, be like, oh, that's cute, put it away. I will be honest, if it wasn't written by Haley Pham, I would have never in 1,000 years picked it up and read it in the first place. But that's just because it's not in my genre. So I won't say it's a bad book, but I will say it's not outstanding. And I don't think it needs to be. It's her debut novel. I've looked on Goodreads, and the average review was maybe 3.5 stars, like around there. Don't like quote me on this, but around that level. And I would agree with that. I would probably rate this 3.75, 3.5 stars. It was just an okay book, and I hope Haley Pham continues to write and continues to improve on her writing and maybe branch out a little bit more and not have it be so clearly based on her life. Like, I'm not blaming her all for that. I just think that was one of the big things for me that kind of was a little bit of a turnoff. In conclusion, 3.5 stars, Just Friends by Haley Pham.